Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to DCI, bro. Today, I'm giving you my way too early DCI 2026 predictions. Now, I have two disclaimers. One, this is, of course, my opinion. This is not the biggest official DCI 2026 predictions based on facts and logic and reason and all that. We literally know nothing about what's going to happen in this season. We don't know show titles. We don't really know uniforms. I mean, some staff we do know, but we still don't know the design of what's going to happen. We don't have any show clips. We have nothing. So, sorry, this is based on what I think is going to happen going into 2026. Second of all, there's a spicy hot take in here, so get ready. With that being said, let's get into my PowerPoint presentation. So, this is my way too early 2025 predictions. Now, at number 12, I believe this group is going to make finals. Once again, it has been a very long time since they have made finals, and this is a little biased because technically they are the closest world-class group to where I'm at, kind of. So at number 12, I have Spirit of Atlanta. I think they're going to make finals again. Last year's show was really good for them. I feel like it went back to kind of what they were good at doing, which is, being a very well rounded horn line. I just think the show lacked a little less oomph to it to get them into finals. They made 13th last year, so they were close, but not quite close. But due to the Mandarins not competing this year, it opened up another spot for a group who may not be making 12th place every year to try to make it in. I think Spirit of Atlanta is going to capitalize. This is also Spirit of Atlanta's 50th anniversary, so I think that kind of momentum is going to propel them into 12th. Now, at number 11, I think it is going to be the Colts. Now, as much as I appreciated what the Colts did 2 years ago, they had the uniform down the middle. One was red, one was white. I think last year was a little too much. I think the uniforms were jarring. I think the show kind of did good, but I think it wasn't as good as what they did in 2024. I think last year definitely lacked the wow factor of what they had. But granted, the Colts got ninth in 2024. Last year they got 11th. I think they're going to get 11th again just because I think another group is going to get ahead of them. Speaking of that group, I think the Blue Knights are going to be 10th. Now, there was a post they made last week saying they're looking for a flute soloist. Now, last year, the Blue Knights, they got 12th, and they had an oboe soloist in their ballad. And this was the first season where any drum corps could use a woodwind instrument outside of brass, percussion, or whatever. And despite the Blue Devils trying it with their soprano sax solo, it didn't really work. I like the way the Blue Knights used the oboe solo because it kind of fit the vibe of what their ballad was doing. And I really liked it went back to, what the Blue Knights were really good at. They're really loud, and I liked the way they did their show last year. Like I liked the props they used. I didn't like the uniforms whatsoever. I thought they were the ugliest uniforms of all time. And yet somehow the other elements propelled them to 12th. And I think this year, with the addition of a flute soloist and that momentum, I think it's going to get them to 10th. Now, number 9, I think it is going to be the Cavaliers again. Last year they got ninth. The year before they got 11th. Last year they brought in a lot of DCI legends to help out the Cavaliers just because the Cavaliers kind of felt like they were losing their identity, if you will. Like I felt like they had it, but it wasn't nearly as strong as what they used to be. Like even in 2023, I saw that show in person. That show was a harkening back to all their other shows they had, and I felt like 2024 was very much so throwing mud at a wall, trying to make it stick. Last year was really good. I like that last year they had very simplified props, but they were effective. The uniforms were really clean, and I liked how they just got stronger as a brass section. And percussion was obviously really good as well. I just thought show design isn't nearly as strong as how it used to be, but I think ninth for the Cavaliers just feels right, and I think ninth for them is fine based on where they had been. Now, Number 8, I think, is the Troopers. Now, the Troopers last year got 10th, and they wrapped up their 3-year trilogy for what they had been doing. And so this year is kind of a very dark show. I'm really interested to see how this plays out because if you don't know, the Troopers are notorious for announcing their next year's show immediately after the championship finals they had the year before. Now, I believe the Troopers, going with a very dark theme here, either it's going to be really good or it's going to lack a little bit of that. Okay, I see what you're trying to do here, but does it really convey anything general effect wise? Does it really convey anything to get ahead of the game, if you will? Now, granted, last year they got 10th, but I think getting 8th, I think this is their ceiling just because of the next 7 groups ahead of them. I think this is where they're going to land. Now, number 7 is by far the spiciest hot take I have ever given. This is the hot take that I think is going to get me some hate comments from a select group of people, if you will. And granted, I really enjoy this group. I really enjoy what they do. I enjoy their brass section a lot. However, the reason I have this group at 7 is because I think another group is going to catapult themselves and get them ahead of who I have at 7. And at number 7, I have. Wait, hold on. There we go. I have Carolina Crown. Sorry. I think Carolina Crown is going to get 7th. Here is why. Listen, the brass section is always good. It always is. But last year with their show, they had. I liked the dark theme of it. The thing with Carolina Crown that I've noticed recently is they used to be like solidified God's Horn line, but now that we've seen the Blue Coats win the Brass Award, the Boston Crusaders have won the Brass Award, the Blue Devils have won the Brass Award, SCV has the Brass Award. I just believe that where Carolina Crown is, these other groups ahead of them, along with the one that I mentioned is going to catapult themselves, I think Carolina Crown is kind of losing their footing of where they are because last year they got 6th. And I believe that the show design elements just aren't really there to really get them further. I just think the percussion is still lacking. Granted, it was a new group last year. I thought percussion was better than how they had been, but it's not. I feel like they're starting to hit a ceiling of where they can go percussion wise. The color guard is still pretty good, not that great. The brass section's going to be top 5, top 6 issue, if you will. But I just think that Carolina Crown might be hitting a ceiling right now. I don't think they're going to get 7th for very long after this. I think they're going to find their way back up. But I think this is going to be the one year that Carolina Crown finds himself in 7th. Now, in 6th, you're wondering who I have at 6th. I believe in 6th place is the Blue Stars. Listen to me very closely. I believe that 2024 was one of the better seasons that the Blue Stars have had. And that brass section was amazing as it was. Last year, they still got 8th. And the show design wasn't as effective as it was in 2024. However, that brass section from last year was a top 5 brass section. They were phenomenal. They're very technical, very clean. The guys that are working on the brass section at the Blue Stars, they need awards. I think they need an award because they were amazing last year. I think what's going to happen this year is the show design is going to be really good. And I think the brass section's just going to be even better than they were. I think what it comes down to is the percussion getting a little stronger, the color guard tightening up, and overall show design. I think if those improve, I think that is enough momentum to put them ahead of Carolina Crown. And I think the Blue Stars, with the momentum they've had the last 2 years, I think that is going to get them to 6, which I'm not sure what the highest placement is for the Blue Stars, but it might be like 5th or 6th. But either way, this is going to be a really, really good year for the Blue Stars. So watch out for them. Now, number 5, no surprise here, it's Phantom Regiment. Now, Phantom is also going into an anniversary season as well. And I think with the way the top four is. I just think the top four is a little too impenetrable for anyone else to really get into the top four. And so I think with Carolina Crown kind of hitting a ceiling and the Blue Stars also kind of chasing Phantom Regiment, I think Phantom Regiment's going to hold their place at fifth like they did last year. I thought the show from 2024 was a little stronger in the show design element and the general effect element than last year. I really liked the brass section of last year, very loud. Their drill was really good. I liked how the color guard did everything. Percussion was obviously really good, like they usually are. But I think 2024 was just a really, really good year. And I really liked how they executed on all levels to really do their show. Now, that also kind of means they're kind of going to hit a ceiling, and I think it's what's going to happen. But I think either way, Phantom Regiment is going to have a really good anniversary season, and it wouldn't surprise me if the anniversary group also had those uniforms of 2003 and that era. And I think Phantom Regiment might also harken back to the mid 2000s, and I think it's just going to be a good year for Phantom. They're going to get fifth. Now, number four, this is where I started to kind of think about top four, who was going to place where. And it took a minute for me because there's a trend, and it still happens, where whoever wins their first championship, that next season, they get like fourth or fifth. And I believe that, unfortunately, I think this is going to happen. Boston is still really good. Boston is still, that group that winds up being very good brass section. Percussion is obviously very good. They're going to get like top three. I don't know if they're going to win again, but I think just in general, usually there's a trend where if you win your first championship, you get fourth or fifth. And then if you win a second championship, you get like second or third. You're still in that top three conversation. But this was Boston's first ever championship. They had a ton of momentum. I think they took a step back as far as show design, as far as the general effect, if you will. The brass section, percussion is going to be really good. Color guard's going to be amazing, per usual. I think it's going to be the show design and general effect that might hold them back. I don't know. We'll see. Now, third place kind of hurts me because of who I have in second and first. And this, whoever's in third is my favorite drum corps. I'm just going to say it out right here, right now. This is the group that is my favorite drum corps out of everybody. It hurts me to do this, but I think in third place, it's the Bluecoats. I think the momentum that the Bluecoats have had, 2024, by far one of my favorite Bluecoat show. It's not the favorite because I think 2014 is still my favorite. But 2024, that show was just simple yet super effective. And the Bluecoats keep pushing the activity forward. They're one of those groups where it really irks the old heads because of what the Bluecoats do every year. And it's interesting to see how the Bluecoats innovate the activity. I'm really curious to see what they do this year. It's just, I think the trends of what I think is going to happen for second and first, I think the Bluecoats take a tiny step back in percussion. The brass is going to be top three per usual. I think they're going to compete like they always do. Color guard's going to be great. General effect is really what's going to help the Bluecoats here. But I just think that with whoever's in front of them is going to have enough in the visual department and general effect department and in the cleanliness and all this and all that. I think the Bluecoats are going to get third, but I think this is the lowest they will go. Also, the Bluecoats will be in California, so these next two groups they're with, they're going to compete with them a lot. But this is where I really had to go back and forth with who I thought was going to be second and who I think was going to be first. Now, I'm going to kind of do this a little differently. I'm going to show both second and then first. So if you're one of those people that just leaves after show number one, oh well. But number two, I think number two is the Blue Devils, which means number one, the winner of DCI 2026 is Santa Clara Vanguard. Now, I had to go back and forth on this because typically we have not seen the Blue Devils, go from like third or fourth and then not even win the next year. It's been a very, very long time since the Blue Devils have gone from like second and not get first. Or if they get third, they then don't get first immediately after. This is going to be one of those years where the Blue Devils are going to get second. They're going to get really good. Last year, they had a lot of young kids. They had the show, which I felt like the show really lacked. I felt like the Blue Devils show last year, I hate saying this, but it was one of the worst shows they've had in a while, just in terms of general effect, just in terms of the props, just in terms of the Blue Devils' ways of doing things. I felt like they were just really young. The soprano sax solo just didn't really fit with what they were doing. I mean, I get they were trying to throw a real big curveball out there, but I just think the show last year wasn't nearly as strong as it had been back in like 2022, 2023. Visual wise, they weren't really clean. They never really got clean. And I think it's really what hurt them. Going into this year, I think the Blue Devils are going to find a way to really get clean. But however, Santa Clara Vanguard has been on an absolute momentum roller coaster. In 2023, Santa Clara took a year off because finances were not really good. They were horrible. All right. There was a chance Santa Clara Vanguard was just going to go away because of how bad it was. 2024, they come back with no props at all and get sixth. Then last year, they had these like weird I forget what it was, like these cloth things they had, and then they had the long arms thing for their show. And their show Avant Garde last year, as weird as it was, given the name, them getting third really shows that Santa Clara Vanguard has a lot of momentum. And I think that momentum carries them to first this year just because, one, I think the percussion is going to win another percussion award. I think the brass is only going to get cleaner. And in fact, I actually believe that this is going to be the year Santa Clara Vanguard also wins brass. I think they're going to win the General Effect Award. They're going to win brass. They're going to win percussion. I don't know if they win color guard because usually that goes to Boston, but I think they're going to get close. Visual is going to be a little interesting because it could go to the Blue Devils as well. But I just think in general, with the momentum Santa Clara has, I think Santa Clara will find themselves winning. It's going to be really close between them and Blue Devils. Don't get me wrong. I think it's going to be really close, but I think at the end, the Vanguard is going to find a way to win. Now, if you want to see me reacting to a Santa Clara show, if you react to a video right here, I reacted to Santa Clara Vanguard 2018. Make sure you go watch that. Also, like and subscribe because I'm going to be doing more DCI content as we start getting a little closer to DCI 2026.